The dog lives, but we are very grateful to you for your prayers for my beautiful Pembroke Corgi Drake, who has found himself filled with little dragons of his own to fight in the guise of histoplasmosis. I'm going to do the PSA. If your dog is having massive diarrhea for 9 months straight and you've changed the diet and you've used the prescription food and you've done all the blood tests several times and the vets are finding nothing and yet the dog is not improving, well, I said that there's also a meditation in here on whether you get to have a cruise or your dog. But in any case, thank you all. I'm sorry we were not able to stream last week when the topic that we're going to explore tonight was in fact topical, but I think it's actually still apropos because goodness, don't we all need a great fairy tale? Once upon a time there was a king. Who doesn't want that story? Because of course the king's going to come in and heal the land and take care of all of us and be the Lord who gives us bread and health and, cure with the king's touch, the scrofula and everything like that. And yet, Americans, we seem to have this difficulty understanding why we want kings so much, because on the one hand, of course, we've spent, the last year with protests engineered by certain, donations. No kings, which I promise you, I cannot hear that slogan without doing the Lion King hyenas, right? No kings, la 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 la. I'm a bit sleep deprived after caring for my dog for 2 weeks straight. I sleep on the floor right now, so don't be imagining that I get jeweled palaces and stuff like that. But a girl can dream, and we can dream of healing. We can dream of having a country that actually recognizes its leaders and has a father. And yet we, as Americans, are, of course, greatly conflicted over what it means to have a king. And then a real king comes to visit, and we all turn out to celebrate. Why would that be? Welcome to the Mosaic Ark. So we had a massive rainstorm this past week in Chicago that my husband was driving home from, and he said, I saw a rainbow. No, I saw 2 rainbows. We've had rainbows in Chicago this past week, and don't we want the king to come and save us from the floods? Yeah, how's that for a segue?
Maybe not the British king.
Well, okay. So I
want to point out, as I was listening to your intro, that all of the Democrats, and they were all Democrats, and their followers were at their No Kings protests, and all of them in Congress were giving him a standing ovation when he came.
Okay, let's say that again. Hyenas. No kings, la 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 la. Fools, I will be king. There, I did
it. It's not that they don't want kings.
Jeremy Irons could do it. And the thing is, Jeremy Irons has a British accent, right? So, fools, I shall be king. And there we have it. The king comes to Congress. He gives a speech to, I did not watch this. You're going to have to tell me more. He gives a speech to the real king, right? We did a Mosaic Ark back when he was crowned, right? The whole coronation festivities. Yes, me and Kiltstead got up early. Well, whatever, she was in Australia, right? But I was up live watching this coronation. So been there from the beginning of King Charles' reign. And yes, this man who was crowned with full panoply of imperial regalia was applauded by the very same people in our Congress that have been chanting with the hyenas for the last several years.
And that is an absolute perfect analogy to make to that movie, because they don't want no kings. They just don't want the one they have, which means that they identify Trump as a king. Not that he's acting like one, but that they treat him like one.
Elaborate.
Well, you can't say we don't want any kings. Trump thinks he's a king, and then the British king monarch comes to town and they're giving him a standing ovation. Wait a minute, I thought you didn't want any kings. So what they're doing is
don't want our king,
one.
Right? It's fine. It's fine if Charles comes because he's a king in the abstract. I mean, what they want to be Canada? Which is it?
Canada doesn't even want to be Canada. Now they're going to join the EU. But why not just?
Oh wait, I missed that. How can they're in North America? Do they know the difference between Europe and North America? That's a little tricky.
See, they're looking.
How do you join the European Union when you're in North America?
Well, I think van der Leyen has made some advances towards them, and they're receptive to it. And it's because they don't want the king they have.
They don't want Charles because now he's friends with Donald.
Right. Well, my point. It isn't even my point. Was it Chesterton's point? It's like Americans have a king; they elect him, right? It's they don't really see the difference.
I think we did actually talk about that a while ago because it's in is it not in so Chesterton's What I Saw in America is actually quite topical to this conversation. When he came in 1927, 22, which was it? It was in the 20s after World War I.
It was in the 20s. I think it might have been 27, but
well, and he's I'm sorry. This is nothing but insanity. No kings. That's all I am tonight because my dog is there lying by me. Oh, I can see his leg right now. That's it. He's still alive. If only the king could come touch him and heal him, wouldn't that be lovely? I'm sorry, I can't keep the topic. That Chesterton comes and he comes for a speaking tour in the 20s. And he is one of the very few that is mindful of the nonsense that they are trying to generate in the sort of public sphere, that there's going to be a special relationship between England, the British, right? England. We do need to do a stream on the difference between England and the British, right? But so the UK or the kingdom. But they say England and America are getting closer and closer together. Isn't it interesting we say England and America because it's the United States of America and it's the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Well,
only the Americans say England from what I can tell over the past couple of years.
Oh, really?
Just watching social media. Yeah, because the English aren't allowed to fly the English flag.
Ooh, very important.
It's veering on a hate crime.
So it's not even the King of England because no one's allowed in England to admit that there is such a thing as England. Because then they might be an actual people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, back to Chesterton, which you were referring to. That Chesterton, one of the parts of that meditation that he had in What I Saw in America was the nonsense of saying the UK and England and America are getting closer and closer, as if the Atlantic is shrinking. Right, this special relationship of identity and closeness was being actively promoted in the 20s, post World War I, for reasons that we are learning deeply from the ladies at Promethean Action. Wouldn't it be cool if we could talk to them? That would be fun. Guys, if anybody knows, Barbara or Susan, we're interested. But that sort of fiction that Chesterton is calling them out and say, these aren't two. There's what kind of identity are you trying to find between America and the UK when they've been completely different since 1776, and this matters.
Mm-hmm.
No kings.
No, this king. The other one's okay, right?
Okay, but so he's saying that Chesterton says, yeah, we elect a king who has the president has both executive and ceremonial function, whereas the British king, as now, has primarily ceremonial function, but no legislative function. And yet King Charles comes and addresses our Congress as if it's Parliament. Like, what was that about?
I can't imagine what would be going through the brains of the signers of our Declaration of Independence if they saw this.
Why?
A standing ovation for an English king on American soil, because they had made a very clean break. We are not British. We are American, and we are our own thing. We are our own country, and we don't have a king. And so,
but they had a king. I mean, we talked about that with James a few months ago now. That the colonists, but the colonists were very happy being English with a king until after the 7 Years' War and the imposition of all the taxes to pay off the debts from that war.
Yeah, but they were still Americans, and they still roundly rejected monarchy. I think Washington was asked if he would be a king, and he rejected it. I'm not sure about that.
John is here watching from Australia. Hello, John. It's good to see you. We do need to get John on and do our Australia story. Well, so Washington, he could have been George the First of America. Wouldn't that have been fun? Instead of George the Third of Great Britain.
No.
It's like George the First of America, of the United States of America. Why not? Why don't we want a king?
I think the main objection, if I had to take a guess, was that it was hereditary. And well, if you're going to have a republic where everybody has a say, hereditary shouldn't have anything to do with it.
Well, it could. I mean, it could be. You could have the German Empire didn't. I mean, they were semi-hereditary, but not really. That technically, the Holy Roman Emperors were elected each time by the electors, the 3 archbishops in the 4 cities or whatever. I mean, whatever. Like the Elector of Hanover. Ironically, George III's Hanoverian sort of connections had some connection with. I know there's an Elector of Hanover. I'm not sure what it is, right? But there were the 7 electors of the Holy Roman Empire, and they had to technically elect the emperor. So you could still elect a president and just have him serve for life. I mean, we have life terms. Life terms once you're elected to the Supreme Court.
I have to interject here, though.
Okay.
They elected their emperor from what pool?
Mainly Habsburgs after a certain period. But in the Middle Ages, they were contestable. Well, they had to be from a particular family. Hey, we have Bushes, Clintons, and
hereditary.
And I mean, what they don't want, we've had 2 Bushes. We almost had 2 Clintons. So that was a husband and wife, right? So we had Roosevelt's, right? It's not to say that we haven't had familial connections.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We had John Adams, and then we had John Quincy Adams. Nearly had a dynasty there.
I think one of the reasons people disliked Hillary so much as they did, and they really did dislike her, that's not propaganda, was because she thought it was her turn.
Yes, exactly.
She thought she was entitled to the job, literally titled, right? Like this, we don't have a nobility. And yet when you speak and act as if you are in fact titled, Americans particularly, will reject that.
Well, maybe that's what people are objecting to with. I mean, it's so funny because Trump doesn't really talk as if he's entitled either. He just talks as if he's winning, which is not the same thing. He's saying I've entered the ring and I'm still here. And
no, I understand why people don't like Trump because of his personality. I continue to be baffled why after 6 years of him being president with a break in between, that they can't see that he's actually doing good things because they can't get past his personality, right? So when they're cheering for King Charles, it's like they're cheering for what they think is a personality or a type. They don't know him. Maybe they'd love him, maybe they wouldn't, but they're cheering the personality. They're cheering the public persona of a royal person.
Okay, well, this is interesting. So we have the group This is these slides are brought to you by Casey's excellent research. So
actually, these all came from the White House too. The White House put these out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting detail. So these are
the ladies look. I gotta say, I'm bursting here. The ladies look beautiful. I love.
Okay, it's actually this is just Casey's wanting to do Melania fashion show.
Yeah, I'm fangirling Melania's fashion sense here.
Okay,
yeah.
So this is interesting that these are pictures put out. All of the entire collection you took was from the White House gallery.
Oh, except for one, and you'll know which one when we get there.
Okay, but this is actually important because this is saying that this is the White House wanting to say what this visit meant.
Yes,
and of course they
were setting the tone.
They were setting the tone, but what we're sort of joking about is the way in which. So what if our pictures are what the White House thought it meant? What do we see out there that other people thought this visit meant? We've talked about how the Democrats who chant no king seem to be fine with having a true king. I mean a real crowned king. Addressing them, they didn't boo him out of a chamber for being a king.
Yeah, right. They just do that behind his back when he's not here. Because
Charles,
no kings applies everywhere, right?
Do the Democrats like Charles? I think they do. Isn't he on board with the things that he is
on board with a lot of their their stated environmental goals. Of course, I think Charles is probably sincere. I think the Democrats are probably very cynical and see it as a way to make money, and that's been proved over the years by green schemes.
Well, some people in England don't like Charles very much because they think he's just all about preserving the family estate.
Okay. I wonder how many of them will be okay if he worked to preserve their family estates, no matter how small. Maybe they'd like him more.
Okay, so this is we're not, neither of us is capable right now of deep conversation reflection. Me, because I've been sleep deprived for 2 weeks and weeks.
Well, now here's the connection.
And you, because you're sane.
Sane?
No, I was like, this philosophical conversation. It's like, what is it that okay, so
right. So related to what I said a second ago.
Good.
Or just a minute ago, that I continue to be baffled by why people can't get past his brash personality and see the good that he's doing.
Trump,
yeah. Right. It's like, well, maybe people would like Charles if he would help them. This is what I see Trump doing. I see him trying to help the little people. It's not a closed club, and Democrats and many Republicans in Congress, their whole lives it's just a closed club, right? It's like a private club.
But okay,
it's
so
I get to play what kind of benefits they get there.
Play devil's advocate.
In
I mean, the problem that I live with this Englishman, who isn't terrifically a big fan of the royal family. That there are plenty of people in the UK who don't like the royal family and consider them. One, that they have enormous wealth, like the properties that the family controls are vast. That they are. I mean, this is I'm not entirely sure because I haven't studied the finances, but that there's complaints about how they control so much of everything, like of the world, just as their family. People dislike that. I mean, it's funny.
Why do you think Parliament hasn't taken it back?
I'm sorry?
Why do you think Parliament hasn't taken the lands back?
Very good question. I mean, we revolted. We set a good example, right? It's like we could just take all of our properties and leave.
Well, Henry VIII did it too, right? He took the monasteries and gave it to his friends.
Right.
Their lands.
Well, and those people really desperately want to hold on to all those properties forever. Although many of them have lost them over the course of the 19th century because
yes,
complicated. Some of it is because they spent all the income that they had on building fancy houses. and then it's like Downton Abbey problem. They can't maintain them. So to maintain them, it's in all of, like, it's in Bertie Woost, it's in PJ Wodehouse stories, it's in Agatha Christie stories, it's in Downton Abbey. They marry Americans.
It's in a Guy Ritchie story, which is one of my favorites.
Us brash, horrible, money-making Americans, including what I guess Donald's mother did, right? She was Scottish and married an American.
Well, she came over here to work. She didn't meet him there. I think there was quite a big an age difference between them.
Well, we do have something in the stack where, like that they're cousins, right? We find that Charles and Donald are actually related.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I think it's really sweet the way Trump is. I don't want to say giddy. He's not like a giddy type of person, but he's always he seems really, really happy whenever he gets to meet with the royal family. And I think it's because of his mom. I think because he's mentioned this many times before that she loved the Queen so much that when he gets to meet them, it's like he's remembering his mom, which is kind of sweet.
Okay, I'm in so many kinds of conflicted right now. Because thanks to the Promethean action discussions that we've been watching over the last few months about what exactly is going on in the Strait of Hormuz, see previous episode on the Watch the Waterways. I think the degree to which we can credit Elizabeth with holding on to the dignity of some things and, in fact, handing over all sorts of things to decline, as well as at the same time somehow being behind. There's I think Susan Kokinda's been talking about this, that there's a new book out about the Queen Elizabeth and her presidents, like ours, but how the relationship she had with our presidents, and this special relationship that's been going on for the last 100 years, to the degree that, I don't know, in every James Bond movie, and all the James Bond movies are serving Elizabeth, right? If you recognize that the Bond's movies start when she's queen, and until the most recent ones, they're all serving her. Ma'am,
that's strange. She had such a long reign.
Isn't that wild? So James Bond, and in the James Bond movies, this shows there's an intense spy network run out of London, keeping control and tabs on the world, and they always are coordinating with the CIA in those movies. It's Felix Leiter, right?
Felix Leiter, yeah.
Yeah. So the sort of, what's the special? Okay, here's the all the hanging questions right now. What's the special relationship? Who should we actually be worried about? Is it not, in fact, England in the city of London, MI5, MI6 network of things that is the problem? And we're trying to it's Trump. But then Trump is really then happy with the king coming to visit. And does this not mean that Trump is betraying us?
When you all gave him a standing ovation in Congress.
Okay, this is like whose side is anybody on anymore?
Yeah.
Have I now clarified the problem? So you and I in our writing for Draco Alchemicus Act 5, The Great Hall, which we are working on now, we've gotten to the meditation on the moon, which is completely unstable and we have no idea what's going on. Wait.
It's having knock-on effects in our lives.
It's so bad, right? I think even my dog being sick is a moon event, because the man in the moon has a dog, per Shakespeare, right? If you remember the play within the play of Midsummer Night's Dream, when they're playing.
No, I don't.
Oh well, I do, because my sister played the wall at one point. No, the moon. The moon has a lantern and a dog. She was the moon. The moon has a lantern and a dog, and she had a stuffed toy dog to bring on stage with her. So the moon has a dog and a lantern. See, this is your literary reference for this evening.
Very nice.
What are we seeing when we see these 4 people standing on that red carpet in front of those flags?
Oh, wow. It's like an advertisement, isn't it? For something.
For what? If this was at the White House putting this out, here our president meets with the king, whom the Democrats applaud when he speaks to them in Congress, and yet the recognition of Donald with Charles, is this not meant to be 2 kings visiting to each other? 1 king, 2 king, which is it? No kings.
there's another idea just popped into my head. So he's rolling out the royal carpet, right? As he should. And he does this for other kings too, not just Charles. What's interesting to me about this, how excited he is about it, maybe not just his mom, right? Just memories of his mother, but if he's supporting the king, I don't think Starmer would have gotten quite as nice a welcome if he had shown up.
No.
So I do think there's a political angle to this, to them making such a huge deal out of this. I think it had something to do with the recent elections.
That's the tricky question, right? It's like, is there so the political angle is like immensely complicated, because we have this quote special relationship with England, but what is it? So in my sleep deprived existence in the past months, I listen to podcasts when I'm trying to fall asleep, and it's really good listening to all this political commentary, because it just puts you just right to sleep. And I like guys talking. I like guys talking economics. It's very soothing when they're sitting there talking about the Bank of England and Citi and stuff like that, and insurance policies. But then my replay is feeding me new stuff that pops up in the algorithm. And one time, I promise you, I woke up in the middle of the night with a random like podcaster saying the king's visit has been canceled. And it was like, seriously, it was like in early April, late March, early April, or something around, the Iran thing. And this English podcast or TikTok, something like that, was like, and so I'm looking at it going, is this a dream? What am I talking? They canceled the visit. So I was actually, like, I had to go online that morning and double check. It's like, is the king's visit canceled? Why would they cancel it? What exactly does it mean that Charles, who's, whatever it is, his government apparently is opposed to the military actions that our government under Trump is engaged in, and yet here comes Charles, and they're gonna have a fun chat.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think they did postpone it, but it was really brief postponement, right?
Yeah. I think. It was always supposed to be this past week, right?
I don't know. Sorry, but I vaguely remember hearing some talk like that, like it's not canceled, but it was postponed or was going to be, but then he showed up anyway. So.
Okay, so some people would say Charles, and the Promethean Action people have been saying this, like, Charles is showing up to trying to save the century-old special relationship.
That's what I wanted to say. The special relationship is so vague. It's like what we talked about last week. It was like weapons of mass destruction. Vague, right? What are these weapons? There's a lot of vague phrases out there that are used. A special relationship. What does it mean? Now, the Promethean Action videos are interesting in the article that you sent me, talking about all the presidents that were killed and the British connection with it, which was very strong, a very, very strong connection, especially with Lincoln. Yeah,
Lincoln and McKinley.
It was shocking.
And it's the special relationship that we're, that Chesterton was pointing to and referring to, apparently begins under Teddy Roosevelt,
whose uncle was British.
Yep. And he was the vice. He became president after McKinley was assassinated, and because he'd been vice president, and apparently McKinley didn't want him as his vice president, but he was given him.
He didn't.
And McKinley's assassinated at like a trade show, or some kind of like exhibition, right? And and the thing that the UK did not like was McKinley's tariffs.
Right. It was about tariffs.
And after that, we've been brought into ever closer and closer special relationship with the UK, primarily over this trade network. That British free trade is the British control who trades.
This is the vagary. Special doesn't mean good or great. It's just
what does it mean exactly?
What does it mean?
Yes, and so the fascinating sort of level of conspiracy theory that we can get to now. I think the watching the waterways is so important because the British Empire was, of course, a naval empire in the 19th century, and then in the 20th century, that particularly after, I don't know, the Battle of Midway, thanks to, like, we had this airport here in Chicago named after that, that the American Navy becomes the peacekeeper of the world within that special relationship that we share intelligence networks and
oh gosh, we became their bouncers
basically.
Yeah, that's done.
Well, but so we're still looking at this picture of two, a queen who is the second wife of the king, which is complicated altogether, right? And I mean, I remember Charles and Diana's wedding. I this is like the first.
I do too.
The first time I was in England was actually that summer, and the teachers that were with us on the school trip that we took in '81, one of them stayed after we'd done this June, like June Tuesday, it must be like Florence or whatever. The kids and the rest of the teachers came home, and he stayed specifically to be in London for the wedding. So like,
oh wow,
yeah, and that was a huge event. And of course, when Diana died in that very suspicious car wreck, I remember that too. So the sort of what Charles and Camilla are for me is already a complicated thought. And then we have Donald with his third wife. Okay, that's a little less complicated because I don't have the attachment to his first weddings in the way that I do to Charles and Diana. And then the king, William, his mother was Diana. This is so many layers of exactly what are we seeing in these two. Well, I mean, it's two very elegant couples, but there's lots of backstory behind those couples.
Well, there's lots of backstory behind everybody. Right, but they're representing they're representing two different countries, right?
What are they representing? We're getting a little bit of chat here. Dollar and pound, John Myers. Some things just don't change. Okay, that's too oblique. I can't. We don't have real time like feedback from the chat because YouTube is lags. So whatever I've said, it's always you guys are commenting later than I read it. So context, please. Think about, what do you see when you see those two couples and what they're trying to show?
Well, I think they're trying to show that they're friends, right? This is like, nice. I titled this picture, "Welcome to Our Home," right? So, but the job of First Lady is to be a hostess. And I know a lot of women hate saying that, but I don't know why you would hate saying that. It's like you're welcoming people to your home. It's very important. And as president, Trump is, along with his wife, welcoming these people into his home and also into their country officially. This is their first stop. So it's not just a tea to get to know each other, but it's still important. It's still an important kind of a ritual that they do with visiting dignitaries, especially really important ones. And, Britain is a really important one, not because of the special relationship, but because they're our cousins. That we came from this country. We were formed as a British colony. And that's, if history and your family history matters at all, that still matters. We don't want a divorce, but we don't want to be anybody's bouncer either. Anybody's anymore. The reason we rebelled to begin with was because the people who started our revolution didn't think they were getting the rights they should have had as Englishmen, and they also thought of themselves as American. And they were I'm talking about in Parliament. So it's slightly complicated. Maybe it's a lot more complicated than people think it is. We would like to keep a good relationship, not a special relationship. We'd like to keep a good relationship with people who are our cultural cousins.
Well, what's funny is, of course, and this is the truth. That's the truth of the political entity that we are, because of the way in which the colonists were thinking of themselves politically in order to revolt. Right? That they did it on the basis of their Englishness, and that
Yes.
we as English don't deserve being treated like, I don't know, Indians, which is, remember our conversation with James, back in February, right? That they were worried that they were going to be treated as the empire was treating Bengal.
Yes.
And Clive's, it is Clive, isn't it? I keep saying that, and I hope it's
Yes.
right.
It's
Clive's divan and his feudal sort of lordship over that region, and they were like, "No, we're English, and you can't do that to us." So,
and they were absolutely right. They were just going to strip mine them for raw materials, ship it back to England, and be the manufacturing powerhouse. That was their plan.
Well, the England wanted, or the UK wanted to maintain itself as the manufacturing powerhouse,
Yes.
and the Americans, they wanted to use not the United States. They wanted to use the North American colonies as extraction
yes,
sources.
They did, and these men were educated men. They were educated Englishmen. Many of them educated in England. They knew exactly what they were doing,
right?
And they weren't going to put up with it.
So they're saying that we're more English than English. in order to the thing is, I confess, as a historian but of medieval Europe, the way we're able now to learn American history is fascinating, because there's all sorts of conversations that I did some American history classes in college, and I have bits and pieces of what the field has been talking about over the decades from job talks and stuff that I've heard in our department. But I think in this very moment, the moment that we were living in right now, one, the scholarship on the British Empire has become much richer in the last couple decades.
Why do you think that is, or how?
Well, ironically, because it's it works as a big, like, global, people love globalism right now. And if you study empires, you study connected regions. So, you can study England and India, or you can study Brazil and Portugal, or you can study, the West's effect on Asia and such. So ironically, thanks to and also the obverse, that there's enough scholarship coming out of India and concerns with post-colonialism, right? What do we do now that we're not a colony anymore, and how do we think about the effects of having been a colony? That it's backfired. Interesting ways, because the more we learn about how the empire actually operated, it's harder to kind of glamorize it as this simply good, even a decade ago, right? Conservatives in the United States were still able to say things like, well, you remember that comment that the guy made about how to deal with sati, and saying, well, you're going to carry your custom and we're going to carry ours. And the more we learned about Clive, it's like, are we sure whose side we're on in this story? The more we've learned, the more complicated it has all become.
Yeah. And I don't think Clive was all that complicated. He just wanted complete control over the trade.
Well, and Parliament was quite happy to use that to pay off their debts.
Yes.
To pay off the empire's debts, thanks to the 7 Years' War, which I'm also learning, thanks to a book that we probably need to talk about. It's The Crucible of War by Fred Anderson, that talks about the 7 Years' War, and talks about, as I think we mentioned last time with the waterways, right, the importance of the Ohio Valley and that region. But the importance of the 7 Years' War for creating the debt that both the British Empire and France had to deal with afterwards, which triggered the collapse of, from the British perspective, they lost their North American colonies thanks to it. And from in the French perspective, they lost their king.
Yeah.
Because the revolution that, Louis was trying to deal with was over the debt from that war.
Right. In England, Britain, I guess it was Britain at the time, yes. They had to be pretty nervous watching what happened in France and how it got so quickly out of control. Right? Maybe they were egging it on, but they had to be wondering if it was going to happen in England next.
Well, they'd already chopped their king's head off. Charles I.
No,
I wonder what Charles III thinks about that.
I'm thinking the House of Lords at the time might have been a little nervous. Right? They chopped their king's heads off, and all the rest of the nobles too, and all their children, any ones they could catch.
See, all of these things are becoming clearer to me now as a part of the problem, and the kind of thing that you try to prevent by creating language around, oh, this, we have this special relationship, and oh yes, somehow, we'll, I don't know enough about the night, like either the Lincoln assassination or the McKinley assassination to follow that. I do know, I am quite clear now that the Tsar, the Tsar, whichever Tsar it was, during the Civil War, helped the Union. It was the one European power, if Russia counts as European, the one, old world power to actually assist the Union by helping prevent the British blockades of the Union shipping. So maybe the British hate the Russians so much because the Russians helped the United States. I mean, here's wow. Like
no,
how many?
I don't think so.
Well, no, but that's why we have Alaska. It was.
Yeah.
We purchased it in 1867 from Russia, and it was this special relationship. We could have had a special relationship with Russia all along.
Yeah, and we should, and we still should. I think it's possible just to remember what happened after the fall of the Soviet Union in Russia. I don't know if you do remember this, but there was a very large Russian mob kind of network and a very thriving black market. But there were also a lot of international investors who tried to swoop in like carpetbaggers.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And
I mean, I know that now. I didn't know it then, but
yeah. Well, I worked for U.S. Customs at the time, so I kind of saw stuff, but I wasn't a spook or anything like that, guys. I had a really boring job, but I got to talk to a lot of people that did interesting things, and but I'm wondering if during the Civil War, oh gosh, now I lost my train of thought.
Well, Russia we're dealing with what's the special relationship with Britain, and one of the interesting backstory elements of this is the way the British helped the Confederacy against the Union in the Civil War, and Russia helped the Union against that.
Yeah. I completely lost my train of thought.
What happened with the fall of the Soviet Union and the swooping in of the carpetbaggers? I think there's a parallel.
Yeah, I think there's a parallel. I don't know enough about why Russia was helping, but it very probably had something to do with England. England wanted Russian territories. I think that had something to do with it. And at the time, that included Alaska.
Well, England, the Crimean War was about preventing the Russians from having access to the Black Sea. And these are, I mean, the funny thing about the sort of, the Donald and Charles being cousins, it's like these are all cousin wars anyway. Because of the, the way the royal families of Europe are all intermarried. You're just saying who's like going to be king. It's like, what pool are you going to choose from? It's the same family. Right? Yeah, they're all related to Charlemagne. Hypnicity saying, love the title of your show. Welcome. Thank you. I tied Lincoln and JFK to the Federal Reserve when I was a kid. Recently tied the Titanic in as well. Well, we are starting, the more stories we learn, the more connections are out there. It's fascinating. And some of them are testable, and some of them are conspiracy theory levels. And some of the conspiracy theories are turning out to be very well testable. So John Myers is saying the Russian hatred seems to be related to events rather than ancient events that may not apply to 19th century events. So this being our problem is like, how far back do we have to go to understand the genesis of these situations that we're in? The people in this picture are very old.
They are.
Right. They're all in their 80s, right?
What picture are you looking at?
We're still at the first one. We're not getting very far.
Melania is a year younger than me. I'm nowhere near 80.
Fair. Not Melania. The other people. The other three pictures. What do we have next?
They're in their 70s. I don't think I don't think anybody's 80 yet there.
I thought isn't Trump 80? How old is he? Guys, help us.
Turning 80? Oh, you know what? He's turning 80, I think. Yeah.
Hypnicity saying it's a tangled web. Oh, yes. So, so they're old, yes, right? And the irony of our longevity now is things can have happened in their childhood that they're still working off of, which is, pretty significant and challenging.
The Russian hate at least coming from our Congress, specifically the Democrats, but not exclusively, is just, it's a convenient trope. We need Snidely Whiplash, enter stage left, right? We need a bad guy, and it's going to be him because everybody's used to hearing that. We've been hearing that our whole life. We're just going to keep using it. Even though I distinctly remember, I distinctly remember them making a distinction between Soviets and Russians, right? Because between the government and the people, that was part of the propaganda we were hearing. Doesn't mean because it's propaganda doesn't mean it's bad. That was the right thing to do to separate the people. That changed because the Soviet Union's gone as to Russians. The Russians are bad. It's the Russians. This is the Russians that. Nancy Pelosi is a joke. It was comical how many times that she tried to bring them up as this like caricature bad guy for any reason, for all occasions, anytime she needed one. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So I don't think there's any hate at all. I think it's just opportunistic. The narrative was already there. They just recycled it.
Well, okay, so this because I'm convinced that all modern history started in, I don't know, it depends on my mood, right? But 1215, right? That the way in which we've got Donald shaking hands with Charles now in the picture. Aren't we supposed to hate the British? Aren't they the ultimate bad guys? You notice that with American movies, and I was noticing this particularly in like 80s and 90s movies, maybe into the aughts. I'm not sure what happened to movies after that because I stopped watching them. But that there was a period during which the solution to whatever situation you were in was always finding out that the father figure whom you trusted was in fact the bad guy. And it's an intense.
I was disappointed to read about Teddy Roosevelt.
See, right? It's like, how many times are we going to find out that the guys that we thought were the good guys are the villain? I cannot keep track. Talking about moon moments, right? I can't keep track of who's the actual villain. I thought Abraham Lincoln was the bad guy because he was the one instituting all this sort of federal censorship and lockdown stuff during the Civil War to, control the press. And I've heard Razorfist talk about this, right? He had a good.
But that's what you do. But that's what you do. Razorfist tends to mention only part of the story. Like I think he brought up once some Union general that was encouraging people to have their way with any Southern woman that got in the way. Right. Here's the thing. That was true. What he failed to mention was the guy was court-martialed because of it. He was booted out.
You need to have the full picture. This is our main lesson in the Mosaic Arc. Keep sailing around because you don't know whether you've seen all the parts of this story yet. The mosaic is continually getting filled in. But this, I have this problem. It's like the British are the bad guys, the British are the good guys. The British are the ones that gave us constitutional government. We are English because we follow, rules of rights and parliamentary debate. No, we're bad. Those are the bad guys because they were the ones that were imposing the taxes on us. I'm so confused by now. And I do this for a living.
I don't know. There is no one. Well, there is one person who's an all good guy, right? There's no one system because it's run by humans who aren't this one perfect guy, Jesus Christ. There's no system on earth that's not going to have people taking advantage of it.
Okay, so hypnicity is as the British or the Vatican, which was worse? Dun, dun. We haven't done the Vatican yet. But we're both Catholic, so there you go. Which are we going to do? But this, I've seen the Vatican Bank is obviously potentially a part of this big financial network.
It's connected to London.
Yeah, it's connected to London for sure.
Banking scandal is connected to specifically to real estate holdings in London.
And Iran is connected to London. Everybody's connected to London. So why is Donald shaking Charles's hand?
I like the look on his face when he is, though. It's the exact same look he has when he's meeting with bin Salman.
Well, don't the two of them look at that? One, they know all the cameras are on them. So, and these guys are practiced at being in front of the cameras. So whatever is going on here is something, right?
I know a lot of people don't like Charles. He's done a lot of dumb things in his life, but I kind of feel a little bad for him because he trained for 70 plus years to be king. And can you imagine, and he very much loves history.
He does love history.
Preservation and nature. And these are all really good things.
He has his own chickens. Didn't I see that in the recent coverage? Yes.
I think so, yeah.
He keeps chickens.
And, he wanted to be king. Can you imagine being in that position? And you don't want your mom to die either, but that's the only way you're going to become king. He was in a really hard, difficult position most of his life, just waiting, just being the guy waiting. And he finally gets there and he gets cancer, right? So he's going to die sooner rather than later. But to see him on trips like this where people are giving him genuine warmth and respect, I think is really sweet. And I was kind of glad to see him happy because he's had a crappy couple of years.
Well, he got cancer and his brother's been stripped of his title.
He stripped his brother of his title.
He stripped his brother of his title. I mean, this is a hard moment. Right? Mm-hmm. I think, well, so I flip back and forth between feeling sorry for Charles and being worried that I'm caught by the glamour of the royal family, because they've been good at this. They're really, really good at the glamour.
Yeah. Well, what is their purpose today? Was it any different than 150 years ago? I don't know. Right? What exactly is it that they do? Because they're out in the public doing everything they did before now, and they were then too, but it was much smaller. I mean, maybe a film here or there, a grainy film or a photograph, or they would appear at special times, but mostly they just existed as the royal family. Mm-hmm. Like this is our royal family, and it's an institution we're going to keep. And the participants agreed to it, and so they're still here doing that. But I think he wants to be useful, which is why he tends to go off on really goofy side quests into Islam and green energy and all, just things that have nothing to do with him being the head of the Church of England or being the king of the United Kingdom.
Yes, they're patrons. They do things that, by their attention, brings attention to things. So they are like lighthouses, I guess. the royal family.
Maybe.
Well, but the royal family, by being present at, I know Diana was famous for this, right? That she showed up, she did her job well when she was in it. She helped promote different charities and things like that.
And even after their divorce, she did.
Mm-hmm.
Her public service was excellent. Right.
Which I'll just keep moving on. Now we're going to move on to the picture of them on the balcony with the Revolutionary Guards.
I want to say something about these guys.
Okay.
So that they are the U.S. Army, Old Guard, fife and drum band. And the reason they're wearing red coats, I learned, was because that's what they wore during the Revolutionary War to differentiate themselves from the soldiers who were shooting, who wore blue coats. So
they wore red so that they would be known as the musicians. They're the musicians.
Yes, the drummers and the pipers. Yeah. So that's why they were in red coats. It wasn't because some people are saying, yeah, they're really
British.
Charles. Like,
no, I see. Right. No, even in the American Army, they were wearing red to distinguish themselves.
No, the American Army. Yeah. So, but these are active duty Army Corps people
now
in this band.
Right.
Yeah. Right now in this picture. Yeah.
So by way of, appearing on balconies and paying attention to people, this one, they're paying attention to the Army musicians, but, other things that the king and queen, I don't see how Camilla is queen. I saw her be crowned, but
she's queen. She's queen because Charles gave her the title queen.
Now okay.
And queen, not queen consort, which is also a title. He gave her a title queen.
Well, okay, fine. But
Philip was never king. That's all I want to say.
Yes, exactly. She seems to, be doing her job well in the visit. And that they visited a lot of different places. And what I love is the videos from when they went to that sort of village fair, right? Which is a very English thing to have to do. That the lord and lady show up to the village fete, and
is this the one in Shenandoah?
Probably, and they're like doing dances for them and baking, showing them baked goods and stuff. And I'm like, this is so British.
Yes, it's a country fair. Right? It is. Like I said, we are cousins culturally. We're cousins still.
Well, David Hackett Fisher would say, yeah, it's durable, and our accent, mind you, is way more English than your guys's, Brits, you Hanoverian toffs.
Yeah.
I mean, if Shakespeare's English is the real English, we've got it.
We speak Elizabethan English.
We do indeed, because all of our ancestors came over and stuck in the past, right? That they are important as figureheads because they're figureheads, right? It's like their attention is actually incredibly valuable, because anybody who watches where they go is going to see what was shown to them. So it's they're sort of these big lighthouse mirror effects, right? Now that this has lost the thread of whether they're the good guys or the bad guys. Let's carry on. Here we have them I think, reviewing the blue guys. I'm sorry, I don't know what the pictures are. You have to explain.
Well, these I just called it inspecting the troops, and that's also apparently a traditional thing to do. They're just walking along the troops, and from the looks of it, I can see Navy guys standing in a line just behind Charles's head. That's Navy. This looks like Air Force. I think it's Air Force. So they're the different branches, and there's Marines on the left. So almost kind of like, and it looks like there's an honor guard back there. So just it's ceremonial, I don't know why they do it. I should probably look into the Office of Protocol to find out.
There will be homework after this for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, it's
done on the other side of the Atlantic too.
It was a very impressive part of the coronation ceremonies, how like formation marching. And it was it was actually exquisite, the degree of precision and drill that it took for these companies, which the English, the British, whatever they are, British, are really, really good at. And if we're trying to like match our cousins in that sense, we have to be as good at it. But it feels like Charles did make some funny comments in one of his speeches about like the White House is looking really good. We tried to help you out in 1814. Apparently, and I've also heard people saying he's often that funny. So okay, fine, but they're our enemy. We revolted against them using these, our military, and we beat them.
So are you suggesting? Are you suggesting he's walking King Charles past our troops and saying, they're ever ready to go?
The special relationship is very curious, because of course for a good part of our existence as a nation, the British were trying to undo it.
That's true. They were for the first 100 years.
Right.
There was even a member of parliament whose name I don't remember right now, who in the 1950s was suggesting we could still get those North American colonies back.
Is this not a secret way? Like Charles is like, my legacy is going to be recovering the empire.
I don't think he's thinking that. I think he just wants to be relevant.
Okay, but what does that mean? What does relevant mean?
There are large calls to get rid of the monarchy, as you well know, being married to an Englishman in the UK right now.
My husband's mother was quite taken with the royal family, so they're split within families about these things too.
Yeah, well, sure. I actually don't have a dog in the fight. I think it's a fascinating institution. If they kept it, I think that was maybe a beautiful expression of their history. Be even better if they became Catholic again, because that's part of their history too.
Well, then that makes it a little tricky with the women in this picture who are inspecting the garden.
Oh, does it make it a bit tricky? Not for Melania, I don't think, but for Camilla, yeah, because her first husband still lives. But
well, maybe not for Melania, but Trump's one of his previous wives is alive, right?
Yeah, but I don't know the circumstances of the marriage. So
they weren't Catholic. So this is
well, that wouldn't matter so much as what was Trump and what was he thinking. That's a whole nother topic, which is probably too boring for the mosaic art or too legalistic, but it has to do with annulments and things like that. But yeah, Camilla's first husband, is a Catholic.
Okay.
I think he might have remarried. I'm not sure, but no, I put this because the ladies look beautiful.
That's why. They do. Well, so
it's very English what they're doing right now, walking through this very lush English type landscape, because it is an English garden. English gardens are very lush and slightly overgrown on purpose to make it look like spring is bursting out all over. And I just think that was beautiful. Camilla's got this, she's wearing this white that almost has a pale green sheen to it. I just think it's lovely.
Well, so this, I mean, one of the interesting things I think about their visit and then the Trump visit to Windsor, yes, is this degree of pageantry, which is somewhat when I was thinking about in my introduction to the episode tonight. Don't we want this? Don't we want elegance and beauty and like
yes.
you want it would be not, and so my Tolkien class this week we were talking about jewelry or yesterday, because we were reading Tolkien's translation of Pearl and the sort of images of the heavenly Jerusalem and so forth. But that what do and this is that we planned this discussion last week and then I had to delay because the dog. But we could be talking this week about the Met Gala.
That's right. It's Fashion Week. This is perfect.
Right. This is Fashion Week. And then you're in the situation of saying, what does fashion at this high, I mean, these are exquisite, absolutely exquisite outfits that both of them are wearing. So and that they've clearly had to coordinate, because in all of the pictures, everything they're wearing matches. I mean, in a good way.
Right? I got to say, I mean, Camilla looks fantastic too, and which is not easy for somebody who's elderly and ill. She has been ill herself over the past 2 years, but she looks lovely in this. It's just the perfect shape. It's got to not be easy to stand next to Melania in pictures. She's a supermodel,
right.
But she looks lovely. She's absolutely holding her own here, in the way she's dressed and the way she's carrying herself. And I think it's lovely. Love that picture.
But this to me is when people start wanting a king in sort of fantasy context, they want the dignity and the pageantry and the elegance, and
they do. They forget what it looks like. It's easy to forget what it looks like here. It should be easier to remember what it looks like in England, because they have more of these things. I saw some pictures released of the first garden party, and I forget which palace it was. It was the royal family was having a garden party, and I thought, wow, there's a phrase I haven't heard in a long time. A garden party. Garden parties are real things. You have to have a garden.
You have to have a garden to have a party in. Yeah.
It's a bit like, I guess it would be a bit like a cookout or a barbecue, but a little more elegant. Because
having spent a little bit of time at Cambridge, it's so funny that unless you're like trained to behave in these situations, you just, I know how to behave at a Southern barbecue. Well, maybe not a fancy dress for some of the barbecue, but I know how to behave in certain situations. And the garden parties I've been to, I'm always like, I have no idea how to behave. What do you do with these plates, right? And they're very elegant gardens. They're not. So the chat is quite alive right now. They're Kidra's here. Hello, ladies. Hello. John of Brissy is saying that, goodness me, that garden needs a decent gardener. Oh, come on.
I think it's got a few.
John Myers saying the really nice part is that the petals are gathered on the left side of the path. Oh, they are indeed, which would normally be cleared out. Okay, so there's symbolism there that we're not looking at when we have the.
It's meant to look casually elegant. It's not meant to. It's meant to look like an English garden, in my opinion. Just like I said, slightly overgrown, but still manicured.
Right.
Which is what it is.
Which I think are beautiful. I love English style gardens. I much prefer them to the French, the French and the Austrian ornamental clipping hedge clipped. With Marie Antoinette, I'm wanting her English garden.
With the mazes, the complicated mazes.
Yes, and capability Brown with his great and oh no, it's the name starts with an I. No, I forgot what his name is. All the magic, sort of landscaping that makes it look like it's a vista, but there's actually this cliff that the sheep can't climb, so that the ha that you don't fall off. Anyway,
I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry.
Hey, this is in what we're writing about our moon character, right? Because she has one of those gardens. That's in Act 2, guys. Yeah. You can know some of what we're talking about, and if you are Draco Alchemicus references, because it's in Act 2. The moon character is declaring her garden. This kind of dignity and elegance. Here they are with that little house, which I find hilarious.
What is that little house? I was trying to think about that.
Well, it's the beehive.
I don't know. Oh, the next picture you mean?
Yes.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
That little. Okay. They have a beehive made to look like the White House. Who does that and why?
It's really cool.
And we have to have pictures with the bee house, which the White House put out videos of before the visit, right? So we were like, the bees are here. We make honey from the bees. And it's like, oh, right. So we're going to have to, when King Charles and Queen Camilla come to the White House, they have to be shown the bees.
Well, I think he also has his own hives too, but yeah, that was quite symbolic.
Okay.
That was really symbolic.
So in wanting a king, is it we want proper symbolism? What are we saying here?
I don't know, because I never wanted a king. So I can't relate. But I know there are people who do.
You don't want King Aragorn? Come on.
Oh, break my heart. What are you doing?
See?
Yes, but only
come
him.
On. Tolkien has a vast American, fan base,
right.
And everybody playing, Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games because they desperately want to have fantasy fairy kings.
We would get his ancestor Isildur. That's who we'd get. That's why.
Well, yes, but come on, don't you think that the king can heal the land? I think this is what the whole bee thing is suggesting, right? That we are. What I've heard on the internet, and particularly the X conversation, is that here we're going to enlarge this picture because it's so hilarious. So Trump ends up with a bee on his hand, and everybody's there looking at the bee that he's holding in his hand, and he's there very calmly saying, "I'm king."
Yeah.
No.
It's like he's listening. It does look like the bee is talking to him. It's really weird.
Hey, but this is I have it on good good evidence from something that we saw on the internet that telling the beehive that there's a new king is an important ritual.
Yes, that's a thing. You tell the bees when the king dies or when there is a new king.
Why? Why would you tell the bees?
Because if the bees aren't happy, and apparently they do stand on ceremony, and if you insult them, they might leave.
And then you all starve.
Take prosperity with them, right? So they respect them enough to include them as a member of the family.
So this actually makes sense of one of my favorite Terry Pratchett stories, The Lords and Ladies, which is in fact about the Queen of the Elves and her kidnapping the king. But it also has a sort of interpretive side plot about Queen Margaret learning about beekeeping from the local beekeeper Hodges Arg is the falconer. But she now I don't remember what the beekeeper's name is, but she has to learn from the beekeeper about what it's like keeping bees, and she's like, oh, it's very peaceful and kind, and he has to tell her, no, when you have two queens, because in fact the king bee is a queen. There's no kings. Bees don't have kings; they have queens. That if you end up having to have battles between the queens because there can only be one in the hive because they're mother of everybody. And there are queen battles right before a swarm. Like maybe the queen will take a set of the workers and go somewhere else and set up a new hive.
But also, if you try to introduce a new queen, the bees have to accept her.
Right.
or the killer.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's handing this bee and it's not stinging him is also highly symbolic.
I mean, but what's funny is, of course, there aren't any in the Middle Ages when you get all these bestiary stories about the beehives and the king. They think the big one is the king bee, but it's in fact, as we know, the female. So it's a queen.
Right.
But this sort of, I'm not. So I'm wondering where they get this story about having to tell the bees about a new king, because I'm not really aware of it. What I know is there's a very famous early 18th century satire called The Fable of the Bees by Bernard Mandeville, which is trying to make the argument that, works commercially for the British Empire, that private vice makes public wealth. And he wrote it actually as a joke, maybe. But, this saying is like all these things that we do, like drinking and gambling and greed and things like that, insofar as our private vices create commerce, that's a good thing, which allegedly was used by Adam Smith to, argue for free trade. Smash that bee.
Okay.
I don't know. This is the way my mind goes. And the people that are setting up beehives that look like the White House and showing the king his bees, it can't just be because Charles likes bees.
So you think he understood the symbolic power of this image?
Did he? I mean, the internet does. So how much does Charles think that this is actually showing? Here, look, we go to the next picture, right?
I knew about the
beekeeper that apparently has some symbolic significance.
That was hilarious. But there was a movie called The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. I don't know if you're aware of it.
Nope.
It was not good. But it was about Jason Statham's being the same character he is in every movie, which he's an ex-special forces guy who's in retirement. And he has found a peaceful life as a beekeeper, but he's dragged back into, some kind of terrible drama and has to use his special skills. But it was called The Beekeeper, right? So Donald Trump is dragged back in to all of our drama to fix it, right? Restore order, protect the nation, right? It was hilarious.
Okay, I was thinking when I saw this poster image that the beekeeper was the clue. It's like the beekeeper is the one who understands, hierarchy and things like that, and he's the one. Not that he's peacefully gardening, and come back in and fight.
Right. That's why it works as a funny meme.
Okay, John Myers is making various meditations on no king, Christ is king, and yet Isildur lost the ring and Gollum found it and tried to recover it at the end. In the end, God will be not confuted. Well, yes, that's true. John Abrisi saying, ask the wild bee what the druids knew. The funny thing about playing in this symbol world is there's kind of a bottomless well of this stuff. And knowing exactly which symbolism any particular performance is pointing to is pretty perilous.
Well, the bee thing was pretty obvious, although I thought, how did he get that bee to land on his hand? He could have used old bee pheromones, but then he would have been swarmed by all of them, not just one. So it did look natural. Maybe it was a bee drone.
Did just let's
happen? Let's start an internet rumor.
Okay, well, going back to the bee. Okay, so the thing I know about bees is there's miracle stories of them from the 13th century when the devotion to the Eucharist is sort of being actively promoted by people like Caesarius of Heisterbach, the Cistercian who collects a lot of these kinds of stories in his Dialogue of Miracles. And the problem is understanding the way in which the host is actually the presence, the real presence, that it's in fact as consecrated. And after 1215, which is when modernity begins, you have a doctrine of transubstantiation made doctrinally clear. And it takes some even in the Middle Ages, it took some persuading for people to accept these kinds of miracles. And one of the stories is there's a consecrated host that this maybe pretend it's a woman, I don't remember whether it was, that she they keep it under their tongue or something and leave the church and take the consecrated host and put it in the beehive because they think it'll make them make more honey or something, right? And what they find is the bees make a little chapel for
Adorable.
So that's what I'm thinking when I see this, White House shaped beehive, right? It's like, oh, look, they made a little chapel for the bees.
That's funny.
And given that what we would like is for, our king to be Catholic, and maybe even our president to be Catholic. Wouldn't that be interesting? The symbolism around the bees is so fraught and complicated for me, because the one thing I think of when I see bees in a sort of story world like this is these wax chapels that they make for the consecrated host. No, yes. Kings. We want a king. John Myers is saying Christ is king indeed. So, the bees would recognize Christ as king because he's their creator, and they'd make, if he was present in the host, they'd make a little chapel for him. I did actually see something once of if you don't make the beehives with the frames that they use in those constructed hives, they will make kind of organic images, right? And they I saw an image on the internet once. Everything is on the internet, that it kind of did look sort of like a chapel, right? That if they just
I want to see, that sounds cool.
Yeah, it looked really cool, and I could say, okay, so you could make a story out of the hive creating all of the cells together, and then they it's this beautiful Gothic like structure. Okay, so the bee lands on his hand. The beekeeper revealed how the male traced Trump's family tree and found out he's the king's cousin. What are we doing now? What are we doing here?
I don't know. That's a crazy one. I'm kind of surprised how short the list is.
Of what?
From the Stewart to Trump.
It's from the significant generations. How many generations did you count?
It fits on one page, though.
Well, come on. So I am related, as we all know, to Sir John Hawkins, which is like 14 generations back. And Hawkins is, I think, my grandfather, I counted. It doesn't take that many to get fairly far back in the centuries.
I guess not.
Okay, I'm going to count now. Okay, so the king's cousin.
I think it's 8 or 9.
Wait, they're parallel. Okay, so Trump's older than I am. So he's my mother's age. So we're missing a generation off of me. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, no, easy. This is back to John Stuart, 3rd Earl of Lennox was their common ancestor. And it's 16 generations. That's it. That's right.
Okay. I'm just surprised it could fit on one page. There's not, it sounds like a lot of time, centuries, but I don't really think it is. It just really depends upon how you look at it. We're a lot closer together than people think.
Well, so this is back to the early 16th century. And what you were saying about us, culturally as cousins, and in fact, in terms of real like ancestry, many of us are related to the English.
Yeah, but culturally we would be as well. You just, you adopt it. You adopt language. You adopt manners of speech.
But I think the saying that the Americans revolted because they felt because they believed they were English is the most.
No, they knew they were, because
they knew they were English.
They knew they were English, but they knew they also knew they were Americans, right? Which was something unique. But they definitely retained their Englishness, and they knew as Englishmen what their rights should be. They knew what their rights were.
That they carried with them somehow, even though they were living in America.
Yeah, they were living in America, but they were trading, back and forth with their mother country. Businessly, culturally, the daughters of planters were sent to school in England, and so were the sons.
So what you're saying is we should have a special relationship with the British.
No, I'm saying we already have.
Here they are as the family portrait that you gave. They did such a good job with all of these dresses and suits, and I mean, whatever the decoration, the decorators have been busy in the White House gilding everything. Which
of course
is hilarious and great.
That's a Trump thing.
I know, but
you like that?
I love it. I mean, why not?
Why?
But I guess they say, why not have a palace? It's like that's like saying you can't have beautiful churches. It is a public home, in the sense
it is a public home, and it should be beautiful. Yeah, for sure. But yes, the ladies are coordinated nicely. Again, the different shades of the same color. And except Tiffany's wearing, it looks like a champagne white and off-white. She is very statuesque. I didn't realize that until I see them all standing together like that. But they all look very happy, don't they? It just looks like a normal family gathering,
So this is
a family that gets along.
You've said this several times, and then we have because there's a family getting along, and then here the boys with their bell.
Oh yeah.
That indeed. So indeed, this was all a very friendly visit. Which, on the one hand, Charles, I think Congress wanted them to be at odds with each other.
Quite possible. Yeah. They like negative drama.
Right. Yes, they like negative drama, and Trump. I mean, my funny thing I find funny about people taking what Trump says on his social media so truthless, like, she's the worst person in the world. Next day, oh, look, we're friends. Like, do you not see that? I don't know if he
said, baby.
I don't think he's ever said anything about Charles, has he? I don't think he makes comments about Charles.
I don't think he's ever said a negative word, even about Harry. He's implied it several times, but he'll never say anything directly, which is kind of interesting because, as you just pointed out, it's very much in his personality to like razz people.
Yeah.
And then just like pretend it didn't happen.
Well, he's constantly roasting people. And if they get upset, he's like, this is exactly why did you take the bait? But I see him doing, I'm so amused that we're 10 years into the Trump time and people still don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like they want him to sober up or something. When he is sober, he doesn't drink at all. I find that very interesting. It's like, at what point did he never drinks? Who does this? How do you survive in his world and not ever drink?
I didn't believe it either until I heard the reason.
Okay.
Then I can obviously believe it 100%, because his brother was an alcoholic and he died of complications of that disease. And he doesn't touch the stuff.
But as far as he has never touched it. When did he stop drinking?
I don't know. That I don't know. But I remember when the Art of the Deal came out and he spoke about meeting with people, different types of people, when you're trying to get a building permitted and built, and dealing with unions and politicians and bureaucracies, that he always did better at these meetings. He said, because I looked around and said, like, everybody's drinking. He's like, I'm not going to drink.
So it's strategic.
I've got an edge.
Yeah. No, and to think that someone, it's like in his world, under the pressures and conditions and situations that he finds himself in, and he is so on point that he's not going to have a glass of wine. Like, I can't even get through our stream without feeling, it's water, right? But how many times have I refilled tonight? I'm pretty tired.
Well, it was a pretty simple thing, but it's true. It's like you've got all of your wits about you, not just some of them.
Right. And so that people can imagine that he doesn't have his wits about him in all of these situations where he's chosen the specifically physical thing to guarantee that he's going to have his wits about him.
Yeah, I think people also miss that he went to Wharton Business School, which is probably the best business school in the country. It's part of the University of Pennsylvania. It's like, but yeah, he said mean things. So, ew, just grow up, people.
Well, and I mean, what you imagine in these pictures? I like that you chose. Oh, wait, one, these are the White House's pictures, but they're showing
Yes,
him happy, right? All as you
he's
keep
very
saying,
happy.
all of these people are happy. They're having a
Mhm.
nice visit. It was very friendly, and we politically are meant to think that. It is actually refreshing in this sense. It's the court life is not uh, uh, exclusively backstabbing.
Well, no, not exclusively.
Well, but I mean,
Nobody
I
come to the
had this
second
sense
part of
like,
the
oh,
story,
he's
right?
gonna invite the king to dinner, and he roasted him. They did that several times to each other, right? But they're gonna invite the king to
Yeah.
dinner and pull some stupid stunt to humiliate him, or Trump is
Okay,
gonna be
so
dumb in
this,
the way in which he's gonna
right.
say something crass and unprofessional and embarrass us, right? Trump is going to embarrass the United States of America. Oh, right, by
So
entertaining the King of England graciously.
when he was running the first time, or actually when he just became president, he attended the Al Smith dinner in New York,
Mm.
and he did just that. He uh, he spoke about, was it about Hillary? Anyway, the people were in the room and he was roasting them, which you do at the Al Smith dinner a lot of times. It was kind of a light roasting. This was scorched earth, and
That
so
Trump did?
at Al
Yeah,
Smith,
yeah.
the Al Smith dinner. And so I think people were hoping he would do something like this, and that's why they were, clapping like trained seals, giving King Charles a standing ovation. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. They weren't doing that because they like you. That was strategic.
Poor
That was
Charles.
political.
This,
Poor Charles. But you
I
know
mean, poor
what? I
Charles,
mean,
he gets, the life he's had. Okay,
yeah,
that's a bit. On the other hand, I,
yeah.
he doesn't really have much choice about who he gets to play. And I suppose
No.
Trump, that's the problem. I think he did have a choice of who he gets to play.
Yes, and he's reveling in it. You can tell that.
We have
And he's having fun here.
a bee meditation from John. According to P.L. Travers, Mary Poppins, the bee is, quote, at all times and places been the symbol of life. And he says the Virgin Mary is the mother bee. Yes, it's very
Like it,
nice.
the queen.
Yeah. So this is interesting. Charles born to this role. Trump achieved this role by. I mean, you say his father was in the right business, but he did actually. I mean, people are so mad at him for being a good at his job as a contractor.
They were mad at him back in the 80s when he was successful. I can remember him being interviewed by Phil Donahue, and Phil Donahue doing his knee-jerk reactionary leftist thing, and saying, well, your father built public housing. Why can't you build affordable housing? Why are you building all these things? He says, well, there's a place for both of them. I build luxury properties.
Right.
Yeah. But he was angry at him for building other things for other people. It was just strange. It's like, yeah, we want you to do one thing, and if you don't do that one thing, well, then you're a bad person. It's just such a weird thing.
Okay, but this goes to the heart of our meditation for tonight about the kings, like what kind of king is Trump in these people's imagination, and that he builds beautiful buildings. Charles, I mean, I assume they'd get to talk architecture. Isn't Charles very interested in architecture?
I'm sure he is, and he's probably the main reason that they have such restrictive building guidelines in London for older properties, which is why people tend to dig down and create basements and for new rooms when they want more space in these old buildings because they can't go up.
Oh, right. Is it the Prince's Trust? Is that how it was?
Could be, maybe.
Yes. I mean, sometimes he's responsible for. I truly, I don't spend that much time thinking about him, but I do know he said various things about architecture over his years because he actually pays attention to it.
He has a great interest in that. Yeah.
It's so fascinating for me, the problem with Trump, of what kind of one, that he's behaving in our interest as Americans. And guys, if you haven't figured it out, we do believe that, right? We do believe that President Trump is acting in our interest. Oh no, he's actually on the bad guy's side, and he's conniving behind our backs, and he's actually part of the money. And at some point, my dog got sick and I wish, the king would come and lay his hands on the dog and heal him, right? It's like, how many different versions of our misery are we going to find to say everybody's always betraying us, right? I am quite weary of the MAGA lights who have all decided that, because Trump didn't listen to them when they went to the White House, he's the bad guy. I don't get their arrogance. It's like fascinating. It's like he's the one that has to make these decisions, and you think he should listen to you because you're a podcaster, Mr. Carlson. Get over it.
Or anybody, or a scientist, or a bureaucrat, or another politician, or anybody. You're not in his position. You don't have all the facts he has, and no, you don't have a right to know every single thing that he's heard that day. He's not wearing a mic for you.
Right. Yes. Well, this is funny because when people imagine a king, right? Okay. So the thing about a king is like he's trapped. King Charles is king, right? That's it. William gets to be king because he's, born to it. But he's trapped into that role. And then he's surrounded by people who are trying to tell him stuff and convince him of, decisions that he needs to make. And I almost feel like people, when they're saying they want there to be somebody in that position that they can control. Like the king is the king as the character who you can focus on is in fact a king that you can chop his head off, right? You can he's like a focus. Now my husband's come back. He can disagree with me. Hello. We have the American and the English. We have very different attitudes towards these questions. That sometimes I think people actually would prefer what they want is the king they can control, and they think that if they were in the courtier situation, they could, but then they get mad at him when they can't. And kingship is a very complicated institution. See, I'm getting it from the background now. You need to speak up, love. They're not going to catch you on the. We're talking about England. We're talking about your king. The whole point of the U.S., right, is not to have a king, and yet you live here and you're not a citizen. He hasn't rejected England at all. He just hangs out with me. Okay. An everlasting bond between two nations. President Trump and the First Lady host their Majesties. I'm not reading this very well because I can't see it. Let me read. Okay. President Trump and the First Lady host their Majesties King Charles III and Queen Camilla for a distinguished state dinner with a very tacky banner over the picture. But anyway, may our two countries stand together forever for liberty, for justice, and for the glory of God. Did Charles say that or did Trump?
Trump said that.
Very interesting.
Well, he's speaking at the podium there.
Okay.
So
I hate to look at the picture.
And I thought that was pretty awesome that he put that in there.
May our two. Well, what does he mean though? If we've just in our rabbit hole chasing meditation, may our two countries stand together forever for liberty, for justice, and for God. When our liberty was from them. Right.
Yes, but in our respective places, we want to stand up for liberty, which they aren't doing a very good job of.
What's liberty?
In the UK right now.
Well, but that's the point. The Americans left because they didn't have liberty, or revolted.
Yeah, but we're not still revolting. We've done it. And now we're hopefully standing for liberty. It's a bit like our national anthem. It's actually a question, right? It's a question we're always asking ourselves. Is this the land of the free? Does that Star Spangled Banner stand for the land of the free? Right?
No, that's because the British were attacking us. I mean, our national anthem is written about the War of 1812, for goodness sake, when they were attacking us again.
Yeah, right. And he looked over and he saw, it's the flag is still waving, right? But it's also highly, symbolic too. It's because it's a question you can still ask. That's kind of what this reminds me of.
But okay, sorry, I've had too much wine and I've had not enough sleep. Our liberty is from the King of England, and our preservation of our liberties is from the Star Spangled Banner is against the effort on the English to recover their colonies, which we foiled.
Yeah.
And the sort of our definition of liberty is maintaining the rights that we as Englishmen have in spite of the King of England.
In spite of the King of England?
Right.
Well, we're no longer English.
Indeed. What are we? It's so complicated.
We're American. Not really. We're American, but our identity was
American.
Started.
I like being American.
Identities were started in the UK, right? It was predominantly, for the longest time, English, Scottish, Irish, and Welsh. It's all those four. It was predominantly English.
Here. I don't know how much.
There's not, but they did come. They still came.
Well, they're the only true British.
In smaller numbers.
It's only the Welsh that are British.
Maybe there should be a Welshman king. Oh, that's why they call him the Prince of Wales, right? Because that counts.
Right, but the Welsh are the British who are driven west by the Anglo-Saxons, who are the English.
Yeah.
The English are the bad guys in the Welsh story.
So they lived with the Romans for hundreds of years, but the Anglo-Saxons, that was just a foreigner too far for them, and they went, well.
No, the Anglo-Saxons attacked them and drove them west. Haven't you read your bead? We're gonna have to do some history lessons.
No.
The British are the ones who had King Arthur trying to help them fight against the Saxons. The Saxons are the bad guys. Of course, they're fleeing from the kinslayings that their people are doing too, as told in Beowulf. The English are very complicated people. Like who they actually are, and as David Hackett Fisher has shown in Albion Seed, exactly who the American colonists were is very complicated because they come from different regions of the island.
Mm-hmm.
So a Scots-Irish
so the question is, what does American mean? The question is, what does British mean?
But all of the above, right? And this kind of, we stand for the same ideals, which Chesterton was calling people out against, saying, which ones, right? What are you talking about? Because in fact, and this is what the Promethean action argument is saying, is like our American system is directly opposed to the British system of commerce and well, I mean, not just identity, but the tariffs versus the free trade, basically. So tariffs protect the industry and commerce of the nation, our nation, the United States, whereas free trade protects the interests of the East India Company.
Exactly. It protects the banks.
Protects the banks, protects the imperial freedom of trade. So this liberty that Trump is referring to, I mean, liberty, sorry, I drank.
Are you saying it's vague?
Oh, it's very vague. It's not even, I mean, the B's are more clear, right? Liberty in the Middle Ages means freedom from the king's oversight. It's what cities get, like, for example, the City of London. If you have
Did any other city ever get that?
What?
Did any other city ever get that?
Yeah, there's other cities that have liberties. And so the bourgeoisie, with their rights and their liberties, are often claiming privilege of towns. In the German Empire, there's actually free cities as well. So oh my goodness, so tired. This is a whole layer of problem. And liberty in the Middle Ages is freedom from, and specifically it's freedom from the law of the king. Now, why would he get? Does Trump know that? I don't know. Trump knows more than people give him credit for. But when we talk about liberty in the American context, I mean, it's actually accurate. We want our liberty from the king. We want to have our charter that gives us freedom to have our own government, and that's what the liberty actually was: freedom of their own government, which is exactly what the City of London has, which is exactly why it's actually not actually part of the king's power. Ironically,
interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But he said the glory of God, so I'm pretty cool with that phrase.
We'll do the denominational. So you had some more pictures, and I want to carry on with your meditation here. This has been the King's Visit. what else are we seeing here? And you have some other dignitaries that you have showed Trump with in your collection.
This is in line of, is Trump a king? Right? Well, the Saudis certainly treated him like one, because they rolled out a purple carpet. Not normal. Normally it's red. Purple's a royal color.
That's very interesting.
Another symbolic gesture there.
So what is and this is the relationship of the British to the Saudis, I guess, is complicated. I mean, it's Lawrence of Arabia and all that. It's like the degree to which all of these Middle Eastern countries are or are not affected by the imperial background that they have because of the British effort to control those shipping lanes.
Was the House of Saud promoted by the British?
Was it? Are you asking me? Because I'm not sure I know.
I'm asking you.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't know the history of that either.
Yeah, everybody look it up. Guys, look it up for us.
Because they had a tendency to want to prop up rulers and families that would be loyal to them. The British, that is.
Oh yeah, because they're good at empire.
But that makes them,
with us.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what's so funny, right? The British are great at empire until they deal with their own actual colonies, and then we relieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not Canada.
So the problem is when these countries start, getting ideas, like we did. Like maybe we don't want to deal with you.
But our primary idea was we were English, and we were in fact behaving exactly as the English always had with the king, which is saying, get your hands off our property. Which is what Magna Carta is about. It's basically the city of London telling John he couldn't take their stuff.
Yeah.
Still applies.
But wasn't he taxing everybody to try to get his brother back?
John, the king, no, that was later. That was earlier, and it was not irrelevant. It was irrelevant by 1215.
Okay.
I think that King Charles has to ask permission to enter the city of London. Which
How often does he try?
It's ancient. Well, the thing is, its ancient liberties are from him.
Yeah. Why? I wonder. And I wonder what's the rental.
I just told you this is the kings in the Middle Ages made bargains with the merchants, in effect, the wealth of the cities, saying, well, we'll give you these privileges, liberties, you give us your support. It's all kind of politics, right? But it's the politics of power accumulates around merchant centers, aka cities or towns, and the kings, who are not, in fact, they're not like mayors, they're not heads of towns necessarily, they're heads of these regional armies that they can control. I'm thinking like Wessex and Alfred. They have to negotiate with the towns to establish their power, and one of the things that they grant to the towns in doing that are these liberties. So it's ironic. It's wonderfully ironic that Trump mentions liberty, because most Americans don't think that through Magna Carta, right? It's like Magna Carta was out the barons telling John that he couldn't do certain things in relationship to them. But the most interesting clauses are the ones about the city of London, where they say they preserve their liberties, which means from him.
Okay. So what liberty is Charles supposed to be preserving then?
Who knows? Do you think? I don't know. I mean,
but you think it was something.
But that's what's ironic about it. It's like the liberties that the Englishmen had were always from the king. I mean,
but it isn't anymore.
Well, right. But I mean, when you think about liberties, like, what is liberty? It's from the king. Because otherwise he has, power over everybody in the kingdom. Except for the towns who have liberties from the king. So
is Trump reminding him of this?
I don't know, but enough people know enough medieval history to be able to understand the origin of these problems. And therefore, the relationship of our president to the Saudis, it's like, it's almost as if saying, like, remember, like, you wanted empire to have power over these other lords, kings, like Clive was able to get over that king or whatever he was, Raj in Bengal,
Mm-hmm.
exactly who is in power. All of this is being played out constantly, and every single one of these guys' negotiations is always on these multiple levels.
Yeah, it is.
So here, Melania is wearing a nice outfit with the guys. Okay, carry on. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was changing slide. No, I'm sorry. I was trying to keep it moving. My bad. My bad.
Oh, I said.
Oh no, you froze. She's frozen, guys. Okay, now you're unfrozen.
Oh,
keep
okay,
talking.
That's weird.
John Myers is saying liberty from, right? Liberty on Christian liberty is about our freedom from sin, right? That's not what Trump is talking about. He's talking the abstraction liberty was throughout the Middle Ages liberty from the king. So when the American colonists are invoking their liberties, they mean from him.
Well, that's just awkward then.
It's so much fun being.
He's asking Charles. He's asking King Charles III to stand up for liberty from King Charles III or from the City of London.
Well, the problem is the liberties that were granted in the Middle Ages were from the king. And if you remember nothing from this conversation, you will remember this.
Can't you take it back?
Well, the kings want control over places and things so they can get, tax and, raise armies and such like that. It has become more complicated since the empire made other sources of revenue available, like oil, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, why the Saudis are important in this situation. So your meditation on Melania's outfit in these scenes, because she's wearing some very interesting costumes.
It's a blinged out burqa, right, without a head covering.
You said that.
She looks very elegant.
How do you see that? The whole point of the burqa is you've got to cover your hair.
No, it's not. It's that you cover all of your curves, all of it. That's what it's for. You're not supposed to see a womanly shape there. So she's wearing a very long, what we would consider very demure black dress with long sleeves, right? But she's put a gold belt on it. I just think it's kind of cool. It's like, okay,
but she hasn't covered her hair, and that's covering your hair is the whole point of the hijab.
But the thing with the burqa is that, and even you can see even the men are doing that too. They're covered with these layers of robes that you can't really tell their form underneath it, right? But I also noticed that she is coordinated. She's color coordinated with the guards standing with the gold. Are those rifles? What are those things that they're standing with? No, that's just some of their robes, maybe. But so they're golden with gold trim and black detail, and that's what she's wearing. I just found that
she's always paying attention, isn't she? That's very interesting.
She is always paying attention. Yeah.
No, I do like watching her because you're thinking, it's like whatever she's doing, it's totally planned.
Yes, it is.
In these public appearances, she's to the millimeter.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So she is. It's almost like a way she's acknowledging their culture while still maintaining, her own identity as the first lady.
Well, she does it interestingly with this no shoulders dress here with the green. So she matches the flag.
That's not in their country.
Oh,
yeah, that's not in their country.
That's
in our country.
Oh, so when she's here, she can color coordinate with their flags, but be a
right.
Christian
That's the
woman,
White House.
a not a Muslim woman.
Yeah, right. So she's matched their flag color there. Yeah.
I mean, this kind of court ceremonial is fascinating because it was developed. So I think it's mainly it starts developing in the Middle Ages for sure, but the sort of high level of this kind of ceremonial is I'm thinking is it Elizabethan? They do like pageants and things like that, but Louis XIV creates this sort of display culture of symbolism in the 17th century, and that you're always making sure that you're exactly displaying the right level of fashion and jewelry and your hair and and all of those things, and that we're always signaling something or other through our dress, and not just they look good, right, but that they're she's coordinating the colors to mean something in particular.
Right. And let's see.
And then her husband, of course, these greeting pictures here. It's the same eagle lectern that we had in the previous pictures with the gold background curtains. But here Trump is shaking hands and patting the hand of the king of the Saudis, right?
Yeah, and the look on his face is very similar to the one he gave Charles when he gave him the very firm handshake, right? Slightly tilted head, you know. Glad to see you, but all business.
I do wonder that, well, okay, of course they're underestimating, but that mainly that's the media trying to make us pretend that this isn't happening. That the people that Trump meets with have a very different impression of him from the way that he's portrayed for us in the reporting. Yes. It's interesting that we have no court reporters that are actually following. I mean, even the ones that were allegedly on his side are now deciding that they can't, be dignified enough to allow him to have a plan or a purpose. Oh no, he's all gone off. Yeah. Obviously, he's not in very good control of his heralds. Do you think?
Or is he?
Possibly,
I'm not convinced.
Possibly.
I'm not convinced that it isn't coordinated for some purpose I have not been clued in on yet, but it is obviously coordinated, and it's not just because we suddenly saw the light. I don't think so. This is an interesting picture. This next one, he's saluting. This is in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
So he's saluting one of their, I guess, just saluting back one of their soldiers. I don't really know. I just thought that was an interesting picture because he seems to be reviewing everybody else's troops too. Now I know they took Charles on a tour of the honor guards from the different services. We saw that picture. I thought this one was interesting just because it almost looked like this was one of his own soldiers, though it's not.
Well, there is that wonderful video when he's in a visit in England, and he ends up talking to one of the Buckingham Palace guards, right?
Yes,
which is the one that wear the tall hats, right?
Yeah,
and Charles ends up walking behind him. Yeah, the palace guards, and there's Trump walking with the palace guard and ignoring the king, and it's like
I was shocked when I saw that.
Well, so it's like
I'm sure it wasn't on purpose, but.
I don't, he's married to Melania, right? And they were clear as getting the sense of like, if she's paying this much attention to bees and color and petals and, you've got to imagine he is too. So he's walking with this guard. And my thought was, is he showing, well, king, you're king and I'm not king. I'll talk to the guard, right? You can't because you're king. Such an American response. It's like, yeah, sure, I'm going to talk to the common man and ignore you, Your Majesty.
Oh, good grief.
But on the other hand, I mean, it seems like he and Charles are friends, right? So for whatever that means in their world. So here he is saluting him. And, I've messed up my sizing on some of these pictures because I was pulling them in. Here we go. That, the Saudi king seems to like him.
He seems to like him a lot. And I think some of this is related to, this is a fascinating tie-in for me. Some of this is related to that massacre that happened in Las Vegas.
Oh, really?
I don't remember. Yeah. Because that guy.
Oh, I forgot.
It was a country.
I know what the
country music.
It was a country music festival, and now I'm blanking on what the hotel was.
I think I want to say it was the MGM, but I'm not sure.
I think
I'm not sure what the hotel was.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So there was this guy had checked himself into a hotel with a whole bunch of weapons the day before, right? And there's this massacre. Well, at the time, sometime after that, I had heard reports that this was an attempted hit on Prince bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, the guy in this picture here.
Right.
And they I guess shoot him away and stopped it, or found out that something was going on and somehow intervened, and that he was very grateful for that. And I think he does. I mean, to see them whenever they're together, the prince always looks very, very happy to see him, and Trump looks very happy to see him as well.
So he's prince, not king.
He's prince, okay. Right? So he was chosen because the king is still alive. He was chosen to be the ruler by his father.
Okay.
Because he was too old to carry out his duties.
Okay.
So he seems very, very like super happy to see him every time he sees him. I think the affection is genuine there. I think there seems to be a genuine relationship there. Yeah. Now, what the interesting tie-in for me is that the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the guy who tried to assassinate Trump and his entire cabinet did the same thing. He checked into a hotel.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah. It just seemed related to me somehow, like somebody's following the same script.
Oh, there's definitely script. It's like, whose script is it?
That's the question.
So John Abrisi is saying, Trump style, few realize it's a pell-mell style of engagement, not ships in a line just firing at each other. He's broken the rules in that sense, just as Nelson did at Trafalgar. Well, that's an interesting comparison.
That's a good observation. Yeah.
The other thing so in my, vast experience in the Middle East, having been to Bahrain for a week, what struck me, and you were saying this about their white outfits and such, they spend a lot of time keeping those white outfits clean. My friend and I who were there were saying, how do they do this? And it was like the men who wear those white, I forget what the word is. They have like it's like businessmen now have in our world have multiple shirts or something like that. They'll have multiples of them, and sometimes they have to change during the day because if they get dirty, that's like shame, right?
Wow, yeah. Very fastidious,
incredibly fastidious, and we saw it with the people that worked at the hotels and who drove us in the van, the bus to the competition and things like that, and that certainly in that part of the world they respect like performative dignity a great deal, and so it's interesting watching Trump and Melania participate in that formality and sort of trying bringing it into our White House as well, which Americans we're not great at that level of formality, so which
is why we have an office of protocol to help us with those things.
Because we can't. I can't sustain it for 3 days. 3 minutes. I'm such a dog. I'm going to be like giggling at what. Okay, so here they are with the palace guards.
My Dropbox is really slow, but this is the one where he's walking with Charles in the red coats.
And he's walking with the palace guard with Charles behind him.
Yeah. That is such an odd look. It does look like he's giving him a report. Even the way Trump's carrying himself, the way he's walking, it's the way we've seen him walk when he's inspecting our own American troops, where he's walking through. Now I realize this is just a half-second snapshot, and you can't really see him walking, but it kind of looks very formal the way he's carrying himself there.
But he's beside the guard rather than Charles. So is it supposed to be the guard leading these two guys? But Trump is in fact accurate that Charles, he is not royalty. So he's going to walk with the soldier rather than with the king.
You never walk in front of the king. That's not done.
Oh, so that's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah. This was a problem with Meghan Markle when she was still when she and Harry were married and they were still living in England. She is seen walking in front of the Queen. The Queen was still alive at certain events, and she was told not to do this, and she ignored it.
So one of the things I saw though, when the Obamas visited, and there was an image of Michelle putting her arm around Elizabeth, and I just shudder. It's like, you're not supposed to touch her. And
no, you're not.
Apparently, in one of her last appearances, the Queen was wearing a brooch that Michelle had given her, and that this was, meant to be a distinct display of disapprobation to Trump.
Really?
So how does Michelle get away with touching the Queen?
I have no idea, because she doesn't want to be called racist again, like she was by her daughter-in-law.
I did. So this is a complicated series. So Markle gets in trouble for doing it, and Michelle doesn't.
Megan didn't get any trouble. People were just wagging their tongues about it on.
Didn't they wag their tongues about Michelle putting her arm around the queen? I mean, seriously, there's I saw it in a video. It's like they're in it. Something is Michelle comes up and puts her arm around the queen. Now, again, it's a public situation, and that looks to me like a massive breach of protocol.
It was awful. You're not even supposed to extend your hand.
Elizabeth.
Well, I don't know.
So what does it mean to have a king? Here you have this, your last image, you've labeled two kings, and there's Charles and Donald talking to each other at the podium again.
Yeah, I mean they're surrounded by gold and crystal and golden curtains, and they're standing next to each other with a drink in hand, like equals, like that. They're at their club.
Well, see, that's what the funny thing about the king in this scenario is. He's not any of the things that I said he was. They're not what they were in the Middle Ages, which were war leaders.
Trump's in a war.
What? Trump is a war leader, but they're there in businessmen's suits. They're there in city suits.
It's because that's the occasion.
It's also the confusing. It's like I don't even know when people are worrying about is a king simply a long-serving executive? And I think not, because
he is now.
Well, right. I mean, but what's funny is like Obama with his what, he had a pen or something. What did he say? I mean, Obama was using executive orders constantly. They all use executive orders, so it's not like we don't have as Chesterton pointed out, an actual king. It's just called president instead of king. So is the problem, you said it was inheritance. Is it the power that they have? Is it the idea that you can't get rid of them without their dying? Because you'd have to,
I don't know what power a king has.
That they don't have a term limit.
It's not even that it's nobody should have power or influence over your politics just because they were born into it.
You see how bourgeois you are. Now
that is that a good or a bad thing? I never be able to figure that out.
Well, I just explained the city liberty is the primary. It's like the liberty of the cities, of the towns, was from the king. So when you say that, you are a child of the towns.
But I think it's the individual's liberty too.
That was for the citizens of the towns too, right? That they had liberty insofar as they participated in the town governments. All of our traditions of democracy and representative government and liberty and stuff like, they straight up medieval towns. The people, the peasant. That's why the peasantry is always such a problem, because they don't have that same relationship with the king. They have relationship with their local lords, and the lords may have relationships with the kings, but the towns is always the problem for the king. But he also creates them as a problem because he gives them their liberties in a charter. Thus, Magna Carta, Great Charter.
Which we have a copy of. One of the original copies, and it's in the Library of Congress, I think.
How appropriate. It's the towns revolting again against the king. So, I mean, that's so I guess if this is a nice place to end, right? Our no kings, the no kings, no kings, no kings. It's been the refrain of the towns for millennia. It's like and it's interesting if the king has a particular city that he uses as his residence, like Paris. But even Versailles was outside of Paris. The king of England does not live in London. He lives in Westminster.
So that's a separate town?
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's a separate city. And you and I, when we've been looking at so the city of London, what's its crest from the 17th century? 2 dragons.
Yes, 2 dragons.
The liberty. And so I don't know. I mean, it's like, are Donald and Charles, they're talking about how to deal with those bankers in London now? I mean, the layers of complications here are so vast.
Yeah. To be a bee in the hive and listen, huh? Ooh. Listening on the conversation.
Okay, so Kidra is suggesting. Okay, we got guys. So they're coming in. Okay. Sanjuro says that the privateer nominalist feeding the kingdom of man classic protocol. Not sure about that. They are both equal in status, heads of state. Charles is not senior to Trump in that sense. He's talking about what we were describing in the procession or with the guards. Having a king versus having a king. Not even thinking of Christ the King. We're not there. We're primarily dealing with the sort of ceremonial of political sovereignty.
Yeah.
In one sense, the U.S. of A. does have an ancient king, head of state and head of government in one person. Right. That's what Chesterton said.
It's accurate. Yeah.
Kidra, what about the power of signing the decree, casting the spell, like you talked about on the episode about executive orders? Ooh, good memory. Right, when we were talking about when Trump was signing all those orders.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. The power to write and define reality for the people. Very good. And the decorum and pomp define reality too. But maybe the people don't actually not want kings. They want a king to define reality for them, not just the one we have. Hypnicity. Now it sounds like laundry. It's my students are telling me that I end all of my lectures with "to be continued," and they've told me that it sounds like a sort of catchphrase, and maybe that is my catchphrase. To be continued. We are in this web of stories, and we keep finding new layers and connections, and the more we watch, the more fascinating and it should become more bewildering, but it feels to me like we're starting to see enough of the connections that things are starting to make more sense. And yet we are on the Mosaic Arc still not, convinced that we absolutely know all of the ways in which everything is happening. As if we were podcasters that claimed that we could.
I was going to say, if only we were a podcaster that demanded
loyalty, because we're always right. But you guys, you recognize we have always been right. It's just that our precision of attention is so layered. I think are we frustrating people with our fairy stories? To be continued.
To be continued. Always.
Thank you for joining us. Please say a prayer for my dog. We will be back. We don't have podcast next week because things. So we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
By which time the world will have changed again. To be continued.
The world has changed before the end of this podcast.
Good grief. I don't know. It's the moon. We're in moon time. Good night.